Welcome to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Jones. I am a certified personal trainer, and I'm here to help you achieve your fitness goals without pain. In each episode, I'll share tips and strategies that will help you stay safe and pain-free while you're working out. I'll also interview experts in the field of fitness and pain management. So if you're ready to learn how to stay active and pain-free, then subscribe to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast today. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Jones, and today I am joined by Esther Gokhale. She is a leading expert in posture and pain-free living. With a background in biochemistry from Harvard and Princeton and trained in acupuncture, Esther turned her own experience with debilitating back pain into a lifelong mission to help others heal. She is the creator of the Gokhale Method, a globally recognized approach to restoring natural posture, and she's also the best-selling author of 8 Steps to a Pain-Free Back. She also has been called the posture guru of Silicon Valley. Welcome to the show.
So glad to be here.
So, for people who don't know you, what led you to discussing and studying posture and natural movement?
Well, I came to it the hard way, as many people come to their passions, with a very severe back problem. It was a herniated L5 disc that happened in the 9th month of my first pregnancy. And at first I hoped it would go away when the baby was born, but it did not. It just persisted, and I ended up trying everything out there. Conventional things like physical therapy and stretching and strengthening, and alternative things like chiropractic and acupuncture and me checking my head and massage and you name it. And I just was not getting any relief. And so I had to cast a wider and wider net, but just nothing gave me more than temporary relief. Then I ended up with surgery, and that gave me relief. But within a year, I had re-herniated the same disc, and they wanted to do another surgery. As far as I was concerned, that had failed as well. And so I needed to find a better solution. And so that's, like just searching, looking for something that made sense, that would benefit me, enable me to live my life. At that point, I couldn't sleep through the night. I would wake up in severe spasm, hobble around a bit, and then walk around the block, and then I could go back to sleep. It's no way to live. I couldn't lift my baby. I couldn't even lift up a cooking pot. So the things that resonated for me when I searched wider and wider are things that point to the way you use your own body. I'd already tried all kinds of interventions, and that had not done the job. And when I grew up in India, my Dutch Indophile mother would point to things she admired in the local population. She would point to the fruit vendors, the vegetable sellers who carry huge loads on their head, and they're quite scrawny individuals, not like with Popeye muscles, and the sweeper who would sweep our house for 2 hours straight without any problem, no pain. So she would be pointing these things out, and that did lodge somewhere in my brain. So here I was in severe trouble, and the things that gave me hope, that resonated the most with me, were things that point to the way you use your body. Long story short, by doing the things that I have now written about in my book and that all our teachers teach all around the world, I managed to get out of pain entirely. I never needed that second surgery. I've had 2 more children, and I had been recommended not to have any more children because I have a weak back, etc. And I have had 0 back pain and problems, not aches, not twinges, nothing, for the last more than 35 years now. And it just turns out that these methods, this mimicking of functional people in non-industrial cultures and ancestral cultures, little children, turns out that really extrapolates. That works for a lot of people. It wasn't just me. Because now we have tens of thousands of students who have been through our programs and report extremely beneficial results, outlier in effectiveness, in efficiency. So now it really is my mission to get the word out, because people need to know that there is hope and there's something logical, methodical, extremely effective.
I love that. Now you talk about just like functional movement or just everyday movement. What's an example? Because I don't know if we as Americans always quite understand because we do a lot as we complain a lot. All right. Our backs hurt because we sit or we stand for too long or what we believe we stand for too long. And even today I was talking to someone and I have a colleague that was in Sierra Leone and talked about how women would prepare their meals and be in a squatting position and be able to squat for 2 or 3 hours while they're prepping the food and then stand up and walk away and not complain the way we do. My hip hurts. Oh, my back is tight. That kind of complaining, I guess.
There's a lot to unpack. I mean, I don't think we're complaining gratuitously. I think people are really in trouble. We have an 85% incidence of back pain. It's a rare person in modern times that doesn't have a back problem. It's very sad. So we're not complaining because we're complainers. We're complaining because we have a problem and we don't know how to fix it. Like the statistics on all these conventional and alternative methods are really not encouraging. Very few things help a little bit at the margins.
Mhm.
There isn't anything that really dramatically helps people that is well known. This is the mold we feel we can break. We think we have something that's extremely efficient. But outside of our methodology, there isn't anything that's been demonstrated to be extremely effective. So, of course, we're complaining. And to be able to stand for an extended period or walk away or is that's our heritage. We as humans are designed to be able to stand and walk and bend. We blame a lot of things. We blame sitting. It's not accurate. I can make arguments that it's not sitting that's the problem. It's not that we sit. How we sit is a problem, that we don't do the natural counterpose for sitting, which would be skillful walking.
Mhm.
Is a problem. That we sit in very poorly designed furniture with the wrong ideology about how the spine is supposed to be shaped, that's a problem. But sitting per se is a very natural human activity. These people who are preparing their food in Sierra Leone or elsewhere in the world where they're doing basketry, or it's normal to sit for extended period. In fact, there's research showing that, for example, the Hadza tribals, and they've been had sensors all over their bodies in research, and it turns out they sit 9 hours a day on average, just like we do. And they don't have all these problems. So it's not sitting. And we blame stress and we blame like nobody else in the world has had stress before us. We blame a lot of things. We blame evolution. We blame that we haven't evolved to stand up straight. Well, entire populations stand up straight and they're doing just fine. And, we've been upright for 6.5 million years. That's a long time, even by evolutionary standards. And we're perfectly evolved to stand up upright. So we blame the wrong things. You mentioned squatting. Now that is something that belongs in certain cultures and not others. So I actually think it's misguided for modern Western adults to force themselves into full squats. That doesn't work. We don't have the bone structure. When we're born, all the hip joint, the knee joint, the ankle joint, they're all made of cartilage. And those ossify on a very specific timetable. And if you did not grow up squatting, sitting cross-legged on the floor, then your bones ossify differently in those joints. And it's, I believe, misguided to force a modern Western body into a full squat. We can't decide as adults that we're going to go bush and expect it all to work. I expect the mechanism to be there for us. We can stretch some muscles. We can come closer to a squat, but a full squat usually is not available. So there are things that don't import well from non-industrial cultures. But the basic principles of how to use the body, the shape of the spine, bending, walking, standing, sitting on a surface, those import very, very well. And we would do well to mimic, to observe and mimic. And that's what our method does, helps people with.
You were talking about walking and what is different about what you believe walking should be versus what we're doing.
So walking is actually what we build up to in our beginner courses. That's the kind of finish point to walk really well. So there's a lot within walking, but easily understandable aspects of walking. You want to land very softly with every step, the way our hunter-gatherer ancestors did, like a heavy gait, like pounding the ground with every step is like creating a little earthquake in our body with every step. And that's hard on the weight-bearing joints, and that generates arthritic changes there. The way we respond to stress, the way our bodies respond to stress in joints is to deposit calcium. And that's the way bone spurs and osteoarthritis happens, and we don't need that. Also, it triggers the muscles to tense up, and then that reduces blood flow. So harsh landings are not healthy. We want that a lot of our needed musculature, our necessary tone, for example, in the glutes, that wants to happen from every step we take. Every stride should. In the glutes, I like to say every step is a rep, right? And if we're doing it right, that's 5,000 reps on each side if we're doing our recommended 10,000 steps a day. And that will tone any pair of glutes, right? And then they look good, but more importantly, they function well. That's our big power muscle, supposed to be the biggest muscle in the body. That's what's going to jump us and run us and suddenly change direction if we're playing tennis. For an athlete, it's critical to have strong glutes. That's going to determine a lot of the power of our movements. And that wants to not just be generated in the gym and on the field, that wants to be building with every step we take in our normal life. And there's similar things true, like every step we take should also be a rep for the foot muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's so common for people to have plantar fasciitis and bunions and Morton's neuroma, and there are all kinds of things that go wrong in the
We
foot.
shuffle.
We don't use our muscles, we pound our feet, we don't keep the natural arches intact by using the muscles that form them. When we're a baby, it happens like a reflex. You tickle a baby underfoot and they grip and grab, and that's for 18 months. And ideally, in those 18 months, that baby would have encountered contoured surfaces, which would have triggered that grab reflex. And that's how we form natural arches. And if that didn't happen in your infancy, it's never too late to develop that habit of gripping with every step you take. So every step wants to be a rep for the foot muscles too. And that protects the arches, it protects the delicate structures in the front of the foot, and so on. And I can go on and on. Like there's so much available.
Well, I was going to ask you in terms of feet, because there's so many different shoes that are coming out now. And I mean, the one particular brand that I can always think of that everybody's wearing now are the Hokas.
Gokhale, yeah.
And they're huge. There's so much foam underfoot. And I mean, I don't know if you have an opinion. I have an opinion, which is that you really should be not wearing those because I feel like it's too much. And it really does kind of create a lazy foot. And most people I know who wear them do have plantar fasciitis.
So I have an opinion that's a little different than that. It's true, you don't want to be fooled by a whole lot of padding into a careless gait that is damaging not only your feet, but also your knees. There's research showing that. The more the padding, the worse the knee problems and the hip joint and the entire spine. So that's true. But it's also true that many of our surfaces are concrete and asphalt, and that's a pretty harsh surface to not be cushioned from. So my recommendation to students is they want to have good training so that they are landing softly and not getting seduced into careless gait because of their cushioned soles. That's a false protection. And so we need good gait, really skillful gait, but we also could use some cushion. So that gives you the best of both worlds. Take the cushion and make sure you're not fooled by it into bad, harsh landings that would damage you. And the barefoot movement has really created a lot of improvement in shoe design. I don't agree with like just throwing a baby into the deep end of the pool kind of approach, where you just go barefoot on concrete surfaces and so on. I think that's not, like you
Not
throw
recommended.
the deep end of the pool, they might not learn how to swim just automatically, right? And that has a big downside. So I like for there to be, in any case, training on how to use the body, how to walk well, how to run well, how to do everything well in life in terms of life exercises. That's where it's at. I coined a phrase, downtime training. And the concept is that your training doesn't want to happen only in the gym and on the field. It wants to happen in your everyday life. When we describe some of the benefits available from walking, but that's true for everything else you do too. Like if you're bending well, that's your natural hamstring stretch. Yeah. And then you're doing it on and off all day. It's peppered through your day. And that is much more effective than doing 5 minutes of stretching your hamstrings in the morning, say, and the rest of the time tucking your pelvis and letting your hamstrings become short and tight and prone to injury. So you really want to do life exercises well, right? So downtime training is learning how to do life well, life exercises. And that way you increase your performance, you reduce your risk of injury, and if you have injuries, you're going to increase your rate of healing because your circulation is good. You don't want all the nuts and bolts to be well aligned. Circulation is good, your respiration is good. These are all the underlays, the underpinnings of healing.
So you talked about walking and being, I always tell people to walk like a ninja, and we should not hear you coming. What are some simple habits that people, or even adjustments that people can make to start to be, I think, more connected and more mindful of how they move?
And would you like me to talk about walking or sitting or standing?
Sitting is a good one because we do a lot of it.
We do a lot of it. And one of the beginning techniques we like to teach people is how to use your sitting time to lengthen your spine, especially your lumbar spine. Yeah. So we have a technique we call stretch sitting, and we often begin our students with teaching them stretch sitting. So all the time that you're sitting, if there is a backrest, you could be in traction, gentle traction, by hooking yourself up to the backrest with a little stretch, a little longer than you would ordinarily sit. So we modify the backrest a little bit so that you can properly hook yourself or attach yourself. And then from that point of attachment down, your entire spine is getting this very comfortable and therapeutic stretch. So that's an example. If there's a backrest, that would be in your car seat, your work chair, armchair, sofa. All of these contexts could be spent stretching your back. And who doesn't need their back stretched? Because most of us have been just compressing our spines day in and day out, from thrusting out our chests and arching our backs in the name of good posture, not at all good posture, or carelessly hunching, and that's not good posture either. That we all know is poor posture. Sit up straight, stand up straight, thrusting out your chest, unfortunately, a lot of people don't know is also poor posture. It really compresses the lumbar spine, and that's where your sciatic nerve roots exit from the spine, for example. And yes, one can cut away the bone in surgery and one can inject the nerves to shrink them and so on. But how about just restoring the natural amount of space needed for those nerves to make a clean exit from the spine? Yeah. It's just such a basic approach, such a commonsensical approach. And you can spend all your time sitting like that and lying too. We teach a similar technique where you're in traction as you lie down. So whatever mischief you've done during the day, maybe jumped up and down without using adequate deep abdominal engagement, that
Mhm.
can hammer your discs and impinge your nerves, maybe. At least at night, we can reset.
That's a good thing, and it's interesting because the benefits, as you've named, are endless.
Yes.
And my daughter and I were actually just talking because she was having some issues with her sciatic nerve. And we were talking about she's 24 and she's probably sitting horribly because she's going into finals and she's working on projects. And so there's a lot of stress. And so I'm talking to her about, well, stress causes inflammation. And then of course you add in poor posture. And of course the nerve is going to let you know that it's there because I don't know, the sheath is very sensitive is the easiest way to say it. And when we mess with it by having bad posture or by eating the wrong foods or the combination of everything, then it's going to let you know that it's there.
Yeah, it's true. And the mechanical approach is so direct, like we have students and we put them in a stretch sit and immediately it's like, oh, I'm not feeling my nerve. I've been sitting here for 15 minutes and I'm not feeling my tingling down my leg. And it's like, yeah, we took the pressure off that nerve. And yeah, it's so logical.
It's fantastic. So, um, y- one, you said, so people come and see you, or do you do online stuff? Like, how do they get in contact?
Yeah. So, people find out about us in various ways. So, one way is through podcasts like yours or the media, or we have newspaper articles sometimes that come out. A common way is for their physicians to refer them. That is quite common. And it's a really nice way because then they come with some confidence, they know but they often will come to a free workshop that we do either in person, if they're lucky enough to have a teacher in their area, or online. And now we have this open free workshop available on demand when people visit our homepage. And so that's often where they get their first introduction with slides depicting what I mean by a J spine and what we mean by hip hinging, which is the way we teach bending, and so on. And they learn their first baby step in walking, usually. And then the next step is they come for an initial consultation, either in person or online. And then it depends on what's going on with them, what their motivation level is, what their style of learning is. Can they learn online? Do they need to come in person? Is a group suitable for them, or do they need one-on-one? What is their financial situation? Sometimes, they're restricted. It's always nice to have a coach, but if finances don't allow that, we point them to our many free resources so they can learn in some way. So that's how people find us and proceed. And then we have a absolutely wonderful follow-up program, which is where it's exercises. We have 17 live classes a week where our alumni, mainly our alumni, come, but we've opened it to the public so that people can learn better ways of exercising, dancing. Every day we have a dance class. First, a 15-minute dance party, and then they learn so we have one principle a day. So they learn one little thing, but it's in 2 dance steps with images to shore this lesson up. So it's really cool. And the
That sounds very fun.
it's really cool. So they ask good questions and people can learn. So yeah, people are well supported in this ecosystem.
I love it. You're changing lives. That's a big thing.
Hope. We have so much to offer, but that doesn't necessarily mean people are going to hear about us. So I'm so grateful that you're helping bring the word out.
Thank you. One cool thing is for those of you listening/watching that Esther has generously offered a free gift for all of you. And it's a chapter of her best-selling book, 8 Steps to Pain-Free Back. And I'm going to put that link in the show notes for you, and you can check it out and you can start applying what she's teaching. And hopefully that will help you be able to perform better as an athlete, or even just move easier as a human, because that's what we're all shooting for. So, Esther, thank you so much for being here and sharing your knowledge. And I hope that we can continue to grow what you have started so that people can live better.
Thank you so much.